By 25, I had hit my first million. No overnight success, no get rich quick scheme, no shortcut, just strategy. But it didn't just happen by accident. Let us go back to where it all started from. Hi everyone, my name is Doyisola Toye. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. If you're a returning subscriber, you are most welcome. So today I'll be sharing how I made my first million. So sit down, grab a chair, be comfortable, and let's dive into it. So let us start from the very beginning. You see, this personal finance thing didn't start today. I like to see myself as someone who is very prudent with money. I remember that my first contribution when I was in GSS 3 was 600 naira that I collected after the end of the term. I can't even remember what I used the money for, but I can remember how much I collected after the ajo, what we call ajo now, where several people come together, right, to contribute money, and each person would take turns, right, to pick here. And then moving on to university, I remember that my weekly allowance was 2,000 naira. It was a big money then, was 2,000 naira. I hardly buy food outside. Myself and my roommates, we cook our meals. She does most of the cooking, right? Don't tell her I told you, right? We do most of our cookings at home. You hardly see us buying food outside, even though it was cheap, right? But we made most of our meals at home. And then when I was finishing university, I told my dad that, okay, university has ended. I think I'm a big girl now. That was not what I told him, right? So I'm going for NYSC. I believe that my 19.8 will be more than enough for me. So you don't need to send me any allowance. And I remember that when I was finishing school, I was able to help a friend pay for ICANN exam, tutorial, and all that from the money I had saved. So I lived on the 19.8. Then my first job. So while I was in school, I was studying for ICANN, right? And at NYSC or during NYSC, I wrote my last paper. So I was a chartered accountant while I was what's it called done with my NYSC. And I think that was what gave me the job. I got my first job because I remember that the application had closed, but I'm like, let me just give it a shot. And I got in, right? And the what's it called the man, the CEO wanted me to resume immediately, but I told him that I'm still doing my NYC. When I'm done, I will resume. And I resumed, and that was the job that brought me to Lagos, all right? And my salary was 80,000 naira on paper. Yeah, I think I should still have picture from from my job, from my first job, and I'm going to, yeah, show it to you, right? So please make sure you're taking lessons and picking lessons from this story, right? And so 80,000 naira on paper, but what we get at the end of the month is not 80,000 naira. Some months you will even get the money early, maybe first week of the next month. And I remember I was saving as much as possible. So where I lived, um, I had no TV at that time, not because I couldn't buy a TV, but I felt it wasn't necessary because not so much of a movie person. I wasn't even watching a movie and all that. So I was okay with my laptop that I had then. So no TV, no gen. It was just my bedside fridge. This bedside hat and cool that my mom gave me when I was going for NYSC, right? I brought it to Lagos when I got my first job. And so it was just my Hayat Amoku, my bed, my fan, my standing fan, and my laptop, right? And there's this wardrobe that I had then. Yeah, just us, right? And then I was on that job for I think a year plus. I was staying on the mainland. So the job was in Surulere, Masha, and I was also staying at Surulere. And I think maybe 6 months or 7 months into the job, right? I got another job on the island. And when I looked at the pay, it was with one of the big fours, right? I looked at the pay at that time, um, and it was a contract. It was at the end of the interview and all that. I was the only female musical that made it, and I was like, ah. I looked at the pay, I looked at the stress, and I'm like, compared to my current job that I had then in a small audit firm, I would stress myself to the island. The money is not worth it, right? I'm like, I believe that something better will come, and so I had to decline the offer. I remember years later, or perhaps months later, one of the guys that we made it to the final stage was telling me, he told when I got a new job, he told me that then it was like, is this person a serious person at all? How will you reject this offer? It was like, oh, thank God you rejected the offer and all that. So then I got another job. I think a year after, not exactly a year, my current job. So I got a job, and my pay moved from 80,000 naira to 200 and something. I think maybe 220, or two, it wasn't up to, I'm very sure that it wasn't up to 250 on the island, right? I'm like, oh, this is definitely better. I'd saved some money. So here are some of the lessons, right? I didn't immediately say, okay, now I think I can afford it. I didn't immediately buy a TV. I didn't immediately buy a gen. I didn't immediately upgrade my lifestyle or buy a bigger um what's got fridge, right? No, I still maintained my status for about a year plus, right? Remained in Surulere, in the house I was staying. Then I kept my profile low. So most times what people fall into is lifestyle inflation. As soon as your income increase, you just want to what's it called, change your lifestyle. That's when you realize that, oh, this car is no longer fine, I need to get a bigger car. Or this house is no longer looking fine, I think I need to move apartment. Or this phone is no longer good, I think I need to change my phone. Right? And um and before you know it, your expenses will just continue to rise up to meet your income, right? So I stayed where I was staying for a year plus before I moved before I moved to the island. So my income went from 80,000 to 220,000. I didn't immediately change location. I didn't start filling up or buying things in the house. Let me even shock you. By the time I was moving to my new house, right? And after gotten the job for a year plus, maybe a year and 6 months before I moved, right? It was just this yellow taxi. If you know the yellow taxi in Lagos, it was one trip. That was all. That was all I used in moving my things. All this yellow taxi, you know the yellow taxi I'm talking. That was all I used to move my things to what's it called. That was all I used to move my things. So I had not so much knowledge of what's it called, Piggyvest, Carrywise, and the like then. So that was practically saving my money in the bank, right? So that is one mistake that you need to avoid. Saving too much money in the bank. Take advantage of this high yield interest savings account, Piggyvest, Carrywise, Optimus Ladder, a number of them I can take advantage of. It's also, it's saving in a way, but it's investment in a way as well, because you are getting interest on your savings. Unlike leaving your money in a traditional bank, GT and all that, inflation is eating your money, bank charges, card maintenance, and all of that is eating into your money, and your money is reducing, right? So let's go back to my story before I lose my line of thought. So it was after a year and 6 months that I changed location, and I didn't change my phone until I think about two years. Yes, I didn't change my phone until about 2 years, and it was a swap I did. Like exchanging the phone and adding money to it, right? Because my phone started misbehaving. And thank God I was able to change it as soon as possible. So, and my first investment was money market fund with ARM. I still remember my membership number. So it was when I moved to my new job. I can't remember what I was. I just stumbled on ARM. I'm like, okay, this is good. And I remember the first amount I invested was 300,000 naira. So I had saved money from my 80,000 naira. And also, I think I was maybe 2, 3 months into the job, into this new job, right? That I invested in money market fund. So that was my first ever investment in money market fund with ARM. ARM, yes. I still remember my membership number. And then it grew every month. I think every month I was adding 50,000 naira, or some months I would do 50, some months I would do 100. But I know that I was consistently adding money. And that's another lesson I want you to take out of this what's it called, this storytelling, this video, right? That the beauty of investment is you adding money consistently to your investment. That's the beauty of it. You start with a particular amount, and every month you add to it. You take advantage of compound interest, and it's important that you start early as well. Yeah, so and then when I moved into this my new house, it's after 6 months I got a TV. I got gen, right? Because light in that area wasn't consistent. I got a gen, and then I got a new fridge, so I had to give out my bedside ayatamoku fridge, right? So I got a new fridge, and then I started using DSTV, right? Yeah. So that that was the journey. You see, I settled down. I didn't just immediately upgrade my lifestyle, because that's one mistake that I mentioned, that like I mentioned earlier, that most people make. Immediately your income increase, you start seeing something wrong with maybe what you have been used to and had no issues. Something will just start, you just want to change and upgrade your lifestyle. No, avoid lifestyle inflation, right? And I also mentioned that it is important that you start investing early. I remember that I was saving consistently, so I was able to the 300,000 naira. I was able to invest in bulk in money market fund. If I had not saved that bulk, perhaps maybe I would have started with 50,000 naira. Right. I'm still going to talk about the mistakes, certain mistakes I made, the amount of money I lost in investment, and all that. Yeah. So, and I think from there, I started talking to my colleagues about investment, about saving, and maybe post there and there and there and there. Right. Yeah. So, the next thing I want to talk about, right, is the fact that I subscribed to DSTV. Then I realized, you need to be truthful to yourself, and you need to constantly do a bit of self reflection. And then I realized that each time I come back from home, I will not even remove my work clothes. I will just sit down and start watching series. There's this FBI movie I fell in love. I think Chicago PD. That was I think maybe Law and Order and all that. So, and I told myself, no, I can't continue like this. So I stopped subscribing to DSTV. One way of saving money, right? You need to look at all those unused subscription, right, that are taking your money, and perhaps they are even what's it called, taking your time for you to do other productive and profitable things that will bring in money. So I stopped subscribing to DSTV, and DSTV will send mail, call me. I started ignoring their calls because I'm like, they were even telling me to do this dua. I'm like, I'm the only one in the house, so there's no point subscribing, right? So I was saving money on that, and I was able to, I think for about 2 years, yes, for about 2 years I did not subscribe to DSTV, and I had no Netflix, because then it didn't just make sense to me, right? I was subscribed to Netflix, and then I'll still be using my data to watch it. It just didn't make sense to me, and I wasn't so much of a movie person. So I think for a period of time, right, for 2 3 years I wasn't watching TV. Not because it's anything bad, but I was just using the time to read books. So I invested in books. You can see my bookshelf behind me, right? And I have more than what you're seeing on my bookshelf, right? On my phone as PDF and ebooks, right? So reading is my hobby. Yeah. So and you will learn a lot of things. I mean a whole lot from reading. I read The Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon, and a whole number, right? So I then I started saving consistently and investing consistently. So I treated my money market fund with ARM, right, like my savings. So every month, immediately money comes in, I remove my tithe. Very important. The next thing I'm doing is moving money to my ARM. It got to a point that I was able to do 100, 150K and live on less than I make, right? So from my 200 and something, so I was able to save like 100. At a point, I was doing 100 every month, moving 100,000 naira to my ARM account. And then one day, I'm like, oh boy, I have 3 million plus. That's after a long time. Just do the calculation, right? And you see, then ARM, the interest on money market fund was good. I mean, the interest was good then. So that time it was good. And then taking advantage of compound interest. I wasn't taking out my dividend, I was reinvesting my dividend. So every quarter they will send me a notification that this is my dividend. While I was filling the form, I filled out reinvest dividend. Don't pay it into my bank account, reinvest my dividend for me. So I was adding money. So you could see how fast my money was growing because I was adding money to it every month and I was reinvesting my dividend. I wasn't taking out my dividend. Yeah, so my money grew so fast. Then fast forward. So you see, it wasn't a job that made me my first million. It wasn't like I got a job that was paying me millions of naira. That's what I meant. It was the habit of saving consistently. I was able to save a bulk and invest. But with what I know now, I won't even. I will just be treating that bulk savings in my GT bank account there and just be moving it to ARM. So another thing I did, right? I remember now. Another thing I did was to give Zenith Bank, was it either Zenith Bank or ARM? I can't remember which of them, a standing order ARM, because I still remember a few days ago, that was January, they sent me a mail that my direct debit, so I still have accounts with them, right? Now my direct debit will soon what's it called, they will soon activate or something. I can't remember the content of the mail. I'm like, oh yeah, there was a standing order. So what I did was, okay, at this particular, because I was sure of when my income will come, when my money will come, unlike the last employment, right? I was sure. And so there was a standing order that as at this time of the month, deduct XYZ amount from my account. So it was automatic. As salary is coming in, ARM is deducting immediately. So that was, I remember, that was another thing I did then. So I set up a direct debit, a standing order to say, as at this time of the month, remove this money from my account. Yeah, so that was what I was doing. And I was keeping records of my investment. I was taking track of my expenses. And it's because of that I was able to build this FGB budgeting system, right? And if you need to get your finances in check, you need help with budgeting, this is the best tool that you need to get your finances in order. You can indicate in the comment section and I will send you the link to buy your copy, right? So then I made investments. Yeah. As at that time, agri-tech crowdfunding was on the rampage. And then I took out 3 million naira. Yeah. So you see, ads for me to get to that point, and then my income increased. Then my income increased from 200 and something to I think maybe 300 and something or 400 and something. Then, so I kept ARM, my money market fund, was my first investment, and investment I had for a long period of time. right? Before I delve into investing in bamboo. And I know at a point then too, I had $1,000 plus as stock investment with bamboo, all from $10 here, $5 here, um $50 here, and it was my naira that was being converted to dollar, right? Say, okay, I have 50,000 naira I want to invest. Let me buy this stock. Oh, I have 100,000 naira I can decide to part with. Let me buy. Or maybe okay, it's 250,000 naira. Let me share it between this. So I was doing fractional investing in US stocks as well. And at some point, I opened my bank. I was like, oh dear Lord. And at that time too, I think maybe years later, I got a hang of Piggyvest and I started buying dollars on Piggyvest. I bought a dollar on Piggyvest as at 460. Yes. And then I kept buying 460. Even when it moved to five something, I kept buying. At six something I bought. At seven something I bought. At nine something I bought. At 1,000 something. The beauty of that is your average cost will reduce. When you take the average cost, it will reduce compared to someone that just bought in bulk, right? And so I kept, and you won't believe me, that money I used it to pay for a certification last year, right? Yeah. And imagine what dollar was saying at that time, and I used 460. So you see, saving, investing is the way to go, and it is better if you start very, very early. And so the mindset, and your mindset also helps a lot. I've talked about my money habits, right? I see myself as a prudent person, and I'm always going out to see how I can keep as much as I make. See, it is not about how much you make, it is how much you are able to keep from how much you make. And that is what budgeting helps you to do, right? That you are able to keep as much as you make, right? And then I did an investment. It was two investments that I did that, well, I didn't put all my money. So that's one another mistake that people do. You get a hang of an investment, you go and withdraw all your money and put into that investment. No. In as much as I did 3 point something million in some, and about maybe 2 point something or 4 point something, I still had money, right? So I didn't carry all my money to go and invest in that venture. So it was crowdfunding, the agri tech that I did that time. And was I able to get part of the money? No, I wasn't able. So that was so I've lost money in investments before, right? And that is why most times when people come to me to ask for investment advice, ask for your risk appetite. What do you hope to gain? And so from those investments, I learned that if it is too good to be true, then it is too good to be true. Yeah. If an investment is promising you 20% per annum, no, 20% per month, then you need to be weary, right? Then you need to be weary. So we learn on the journey. I've gotten my hands burnt, right? A number of times I have learned on learning, relearning, and all of that. So as a one of the challenges and one of the ways I got my hands burnt, right? So you don't necessarily need a job that is paying you millions of naira before you made your first million. You can save or invest your way into making your first million. And it is important that the habits that got you into making your first million, you need to consistently keep the habit, because you realize that some people make their first million or some people make millions of naira, and before you know it, they are broke. So they forgot what took them there, and then they begin to live lavishly. They cannot sustain it. So the habits that took you, it's like a ladder that you're climbing, right? The same habits that keep you need to constantly keep and maintain that habit so that you can sustain and even grow your income. And it is important to mention that one stream of income is not enough, right? So irrespective of where you're starting from, you remember I started from earning 80,000 naira at that time. And then I was able to save consistently such that I was able to do an investment of 300,000 naira at once. And it wasn't from, because you remember I had saved money, there were expenses that were made at that time. I moved into a new place, so obviously paid for the apartment, got some things in the apartment, furnished the apartment, and I was still able to bring out. So saving is not overrated. Don't let anyone lie to you. Saving is not overrated at all. So, because it is the money that you have saved that you eventually invest, but you need to ensure that you're not leaving your money hiding in the bank account. If you want to do a bulk investment later, put it in high yield interest savings account like the Piggyvest, Harrywise, Optimus, and the like. And then maybe it's 500k you think you want it, then you put it into investment, right? You put it into a mutual fund, real estate, the crowdfunding real estate, you put it into stocks, ETFs, REITs, and the like. So, see, this age and time, you have no excuse for not making your money work for you. And I remember the joy, right? Each time I open my ARM, what's it called, web app, and I see how my money is growing, I'm like, oh, today it has added this amount. Oh, this week I have made this amount of money, and I was just so happy. So even though I was working at a job, right, and I introduced a number of my colleagues to money market fund then, because I realized that, oh, I can't just continue to depend on this stream of income. So I continue to reinvest and reinvest my dividend when ARM, because it was quarterly dividend that ARM will alert you for, and I continue to reinvest my dividend. The joy when you see that your money is growing, when you see that as you're going to work every day, 9 to 5, 7 to 4, as the case may be, your money is also going to work. You're not the only one going to work. As you put your money in investment, your money is also going to work, and you are seeing the return on your investment, right? So, what are key lessons for you from this? Number one is that you are not too young to start investing. With as little as you have, with 1,000 naira, with 5,000 naira, you can start your investment journey right away. There is a video that I'm going to link, um, 5 investments that you can do with just 5,000 naira. I hope that you've learned a lot from this video. If you're just starting out, if you're a young person, there is no, do not be under any pressure, and don't be in competition with anybody. If you don't make your first million before 25 25 25, right, you're not a failure. If you don't make your first million before 30, you are not a failure. But just ensure that you're growing, ensure that you're making progress, right? I hope that you've learned a lot from this video. Please share with friends that need to learn from this, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Let us grow wealth and build wealth together. See you in my next video.